The Widow, Episode 19. The moon hid behind dark clouds, while Isabel, the widow, felt a strange chill down her spine. A year ago, the love of her life, Ricardo, had passed away, leaving an immense void in her heart. But then a mysterious man, with eyes that seemed like two pieces of the night sky, appears in her life. He calls her Glacier and says he will melt all the ice that surrounds her. Can love blossom again in the widow's heart? Or will the shadow of the past, represented by Ricardo's jealous brother, prevent happiness from finally arriving? The truth is about to be revealed, and danger lurks around every corner. Night was a large, dark velvet blanket, sprinkled with stars that twinkled like diamonds. Isabel, the widow, walked along the beach, the cold wind whipping her face. Her elegant black dress couldn't hide the sadness she carried inside. It had been a year since Ricardo, the man she loved more than anything in this world, had passed away. The memory of his brown eyes, full of warmth and love, still haunted her like a gentle but insistent ghost. A year of loneliness, a year of deep mourning, a year in which she had sworn never to love again. Her heart, once a flowered garden, was now covered by a thick layer of ice. But then he appeared. Like a character from a fairy tale, only instead of a charming prince, he was a mysterious man, with dark eyes as deep as night, a charming smile that promised wonderful things, and an enchanting way that seemed to touch Isabel's soul. His name was Daniel, and he called her Glacier, with a playful tone that hid a deep and passionate admiration. He said he would melt all that ice, that he would rekindle the flame of love within her. Isabel, however, resistant, closed herself more and more in her mourning. The memory of pain was still too vivid, and the fear of surrendering again, of loving and suffering once more, paralyzed her. The past haunted her, echoing in the waves of the sea. And love? It was a word she avoided, a feeling she wished to bury forever. But Daniel's charm was implacable. He observed her with an intensity that left her breathless, courted her with flowers and poems that seemed to have come straight from her dreams. Gradually, he broke down the walls of ice that Isabel had built around her heart, like warm water patiently melting a block of ice. And Isabel, without realizing it, began to feel attracted to him. The feeling was so strange, so delicious, that it left her confused and insecure. It was as if something inside her was waking up from a long sleep. But the widow's happiness wasn't welcomed by everyone. Fernando, Ricardo's brother, had always loved her in secret, a dark and possessive love that grew every day. The idea of Isabel with another man filled him with rage, a hatred so strong it could almost be felt, palpable in the air. He watched her from afar, his eyes as dark as night, full of a morbid obsession. For Fernando, Isabel was his, always had been his, even before Ricardo, and despite Ricardo. He believed she was his predestined fate. Fernando wasn't a man to accept no for an answer. He planned, schemed, studied Isabel and Daniel's every move, waiting for the right moment to act. The shadow of his hatred hung over them like a charged cloud about to explode into a storm. The threat was real and growing. One night, while Isabel and Daniel walked along the beach, embraced under the moonlight, a black car appeared, sudden and fast as a wild animal. The intense headlights illuminated the couple, revealing Fernando's menacing silhouette behind the wheel. Fernando's eyes shone with fury, rage mixed with the despair of unrequited love, a love that consumed him, drove him insane. Isabel felt a shiver of fear run down her spine. That look told her everything. Fernando wouldn't give up. He would do anything to separate the couple, even if it meant risking Isabel and Daniel's lives. The moon hid again behind the clouds, making the night even darker and more menacing. The fight for Isabel's heart had begun, and the danger was imminent. The widow, between the past and the future, needed to choose her path, face her ghosts, and fight for her right to happiness. Doubt remained. Would she be able to overcome her own barriers and Fernando's threat? Or would the newly discovered love be extinguished by the shadows of the past? Isabel's fate hung by a thread. The plot unfolded, full of suspense, mystery, and an overwhelming passion. The sea breeze, once gentle, now carried the latent threat of that stormy night. Isabel felt her heart racing, a whirlwind of emotions making her dizzy. Fernando's gaze, fleeting but intense like lightning cutting through the darkness, was engraved in her memory. That wasn't a look of love, but of morbid obsession, capable of anything to possess her. Daniel, sensing the widow's fear, enveloped her in his arms. the warmth of his body a contrast to the coldness of the night and the chill that ran down her spine. He whispered words of comfort, promising to protect her, but Isabel knew the threat was real, profound, and went beyond simple jealousy. Fernando wasn't an impulsive man. His actions were calculated, cold. He was planning something, Isabel was sure. The image of the black car, gliding like a shadow through the darkness of the night, deeply disturbed her. It was the darkness of the past, the tragedy that followed her like a curse, trying to suffocate the rebirth of her feelings. In the following days, the tension grew. Daniel, always attentive and protective, intensified his courtship. More exuberant flowers, even more passionate poems, gestures of affection that made the ice in her heart crack slowly, drop by drop, revealing an inner sea still turbulent, but capable of loving again. Isabel surrendered to this new love with a mixture of fear and desire, hope and apprehension. It was like walking a tightrope, not knowing when the balance might be broken. At each encounter, Fernando's presence hung in the air, a sinister, oppressive fog. Isabel saw him in the distance, in a bar, in a restaurant, always watching her with those eyes full of hatred and desire. It was a sinister presence that accompanied her like a constant shadow, reminding her of the past, the tragedy and the danger that was approaching insidiously. Daniel, noticing Isabel's discomfort, decided to investigate Fernando. His research revealed a shadowy man involved in shady businesses with dubious connections and a nebulous past. A threat not only to Isabel, but to everyone around her. With each new piece of information, the concern increased, turning Isabel's nascent joy into constant apprehension. One night, Daniel met Fernando in a dilapidated bar, in a tense and veiled threat-filled arranged meeting. The air was heavy, charged with tension. Fernando, in a calculated display of power, insinuated himself directly, revealing his malicious and morbid plan. He wouldn't accept Isabel's happiness with another man, even if he had to use dangerous and extreme methods to prevent it. The fight was declared. The fight for Isabel's heart turned into a battle for her very life. Daniel, brave and determined, prepared to defend his love, to protect his glacier. But Fernando was cunning, calculating, capable of planning the unpredictable. He had hidden allies, dark secrets, and his revenge, so well orchestrated, threatened to destroy Isabel's life and Daniel's life as well. The danger was closer than ever. Isabel, at the center of this conflict, needed to decide, surrender to love and face the consequences, or succumb to the past, to pain, and to Fernando's implacable threat. The crucial and definitive choice was about to happen. The shadow of the past, represented by Fernando, and the gleam of hope in the future, represented by Daniel, fought for her heart on that dark and stormy night. Isabel's fate hung on a tightrope, and any slip could have irreparable consequences. The rain fell in torrents, sweeping away the sand from the beach as if to erase the footprints of the past. Isabel, wrapped in a heavy coat, felt the wind howling around her, an echo of the storm brewing in her heart. Daniel was by her side, his large, warm hand covering hers, transmitting a warmth that fought against the cold that froze her soul. The encounter with Fernando on that dark and rainy night had left deep marks. Ricardo's brother's cold and cruel words still echoed in her ears, a harbinger of imminent danger. Fernando wasn't just a man in love and rejected. He was a dangerous man, capable of any atrocity to possess her. Daniel, with eyes full of concern, squeezed her hand. He had discovered the truth about Fernando, his shady dealings, his connections with dangerous elements, his evil plans. The threat was real, constant, and hung over them like a sword hanging by a thread. Daniel, who until then had shown himself to be a charming gallant, now demonstrated a firmness and courage that Isabel had never seen. He was ready to fight for his love, willing to face the danger head-on, protecting her from a relentless enemy. But the fight wouldn't be easy. Suddenly, a flash cut through the darkness. A black car, fast and relentless, emerged from the coastal road, its headlights tearing through the night fog. Inside, Isabel recognized Fernando's imposing and menacing silhouette. The car stopped abruptly near them, and before Isabel could scream, Fernando jumped out, gun in hand. The rain fell, chilling Isabel's body, and her heart pounded as an icy fear invaded her. A shiver ran through her entire body. Isabel's fear was visceral, palpable. She had never imagined facing such an extreme situation. Fernando, with an expression distorted by fury and obsession, approached, the gun pointed directly at Daniel. Fernando's eyes reflected the darkness of his soul, full of blind hatred, a morbid love transformed into pure hatred. The image of Ricardo, the dead brother, floated like a ghost in Fernando's mind, justifying his insanity. Daniel, in an instinctive gesture, placed himself in front of Isabel, protecting her with his own body. He faced Fernando without flinching, determination etched on his face. The gun in Fernando's hand trembled slightly, a sign of his own anguish and despair. It was a dangerous game, a duel between love and hate, between light and darkness. The tension was unbearable. The rain amplified the silence, making it even heavier, more oppressive. Isabel, trapped in the middle of that situation, felt helpless, terrified, but at the same time, a new strength was springing up within her. The love for Daniel, a newly discovered but intense love, strengthened her, gave her courage to face the danger. She didn't just love Daniel, she protected him. Suddenly, a bang cut through the tense atmosphere. A shot, Isabel screamed, a scream of terror and despair that echoed in the stormy night. Fernando's gun had fired, the shot hitting ... someone. The smoke from the shot dissipated, revealing the scene of terror. Fernando's body lying on the wet sand. It was Fernando himself. The gun still lay in his hand, but the hatred and insanity had dissipated with the shot. A figure emerged from the shadows, revealing himself to be a police officer who had arrived at the critical moment, disarming Fernando and arresting him. It was a quick, unexpected, and dramatic outcome, putting an end to the constant threat of the past. But the scare had been brutal, leaving scars on Isabel and Daniel. The love, which had timidly emerged, had strengthened, tempered by the fire of the struggle and sealed by the danger they had gone through together. Isabel's eyes, previously frozen by grief and loneliness, now shone with the promise of an uncertain future, but one laden with hope and love. The glacier, finally, was beginning to melt. The rain fell in torrents, washing the beach sand as if trying to erase the marks of fear. Isabel, embraced by Daniel, felt the warmth of his body as a shield against the cutting cold of the night. The shot still echoed in her ears. The recent fright still made her tremble. Fernando was arrested, his threat contained, but the image of his pointed gun, the look of hatred, and the explosion of the shot still haunted her. The scene was clear in her mind. Daniel, with a quick gesture, placed himself in front, taking the shot in his place. Or almost. Daniel looked at her with tenderness, his dark eyes revealing deep concern. He was injured, a deep cut in his shoulder area, but he was fine. The bullet had grazed him. The relief was immense. A wave of gratitude and love flooded Isabel. She hugged him tightly, her body trembling, her heart pounding in her chest. He whispered that he was fine, that everything was behind them, that Fernando was arrested and wouldn't threaten her anymore. But Isabel couldn't calm down. The fear was still there, latent, like a menacing shadow. That intense moment had united them. The shared experience had strengthened their bond, but the weight of the event was too great. The police took Fernando away, his silhouette disappearing into the torrential rain, while the ambulance took Daniel to the hospital. Isabel, accompanied by a kind policeman, followed in the ambulance, her heart broken, drowned in fear and deep anguish. Daniel was fine. That was what mattered, but was that all? At the hospital, while Daniel received first aid, Isabel sat on a cold bench in the corridor, her body exhausted, her soul devastated. A doctor approached, with a slightly worried smile. He said that Daniel was fine, the injury wasn't serious. Relief flooded her heart again. The doctor said goodbye, but before walking away, he hesitated, his expression serious. "There's something you need to know, Mrs. Isabel," he said, his voice serious and grave. The ballistic examination of Fernando's weapon revealed something surprising. The bullet that hit him wasn't fired by himself. Isabel felt her blood run cold. If it wasn't Fernando who fired ... who was it? The question echoed in her mind like a silent thunder in a stormy night. It was a new mystery, a new shadow. Someone had orchestrated the attack, had shot Fernando, manipulated everything. It was a new threat, more dangerous and mysterious than anything she had ever faced. A cold greater than the icy wind from the beach invaded her body. The cruel doubt haunted her, laden with terror and uncertainty. Who was behind all this? And what was the next step of this hidden enemy? The glacier had melted, but a new, more implacable iceberg rose on the horizon. And as she embraced Daniel in his hospital bed, feeling the scent of antiseptic mixed with his sweet perfume, she knew the battle was far from over. The fight for happiness was still far from over, and the true threat was only beginning to reveal itself. After all, who had shot Fernando? And why?